Right. I think we're live. So we best get started. Yeah, hi everyone. We've got comments on the right-hand side. Please feel free to ask questions as we go, and we'll get to them when we can. But there's just a bit of an agenda of what this particular episode is going to be about. First of all, my name's Tim Aylen. I am the founder of Chargeheads, which is all about modified EVs and EV conversions and everything in between. And we've got the pleasure of having Janosch Opperman, who's on that side. I have to do it opposite way around to the way I'm looking. And that's it. See what I mean? And Janosch is expert in EV conversions, and he's worked with, used to work and was co-founder of Clipper Cabs. And he's going to give us his expertise and background and experience on EV conversions. And we're going to focus not only on personal EV conversions, but also fleet as well, which is something that Chargeheads hasn't touched upon before. And as an agenda, Janosch, if you give us a bit of an intro to yourself, background, and what you have done with your phone, what you're doing at the moment, and then we'll start deep diving into the world of EV conversion. So Janosch, let's take it away.
Yeah, nice. We can talk about pretty much everything on a technical side as well as on a business side. So my background is, my name is Janosch. I've been in the UK for like 10 years, a bit longer now. And I'm a software consultant by trade, or I did always had like a side project going on, and then consulting by day with, another booking system or another accounting system. And I was a bit bored by that. So I put some money aside and I wanted to do an EV conversion. Well, first I wanted to do just something with cars.
Yeah.
And I started researching like LS swaps and stuff like that, what the Americans were doing at the time. Roadkill, which is now on Netflix, I think. That was still on YouTube at that time. Was an inspiration. Sleeper cars I quite liked. And then I got introduced to my co-founder, who also wants to do EV conversions, but he had this idea of doing it for London taxis. And two people, money goes a bit further, so we ended up building the first electric black cab in his dad's garage. Which
a bit of feedback. Sorry to stop you mid-flow. Can you turn down your audio a touch?
Oh yeah, hang on. Can you still hear me?
Paul, is that a bit better?
No. Can you hear me now?
That does sound a bit better, actually. It does sound, yeah.
Okay, I wonder which microphone. Sorry about that.
There, perfect. Electron Garage says hello. So does Paul. So does
Yeah, hello lads.
We got you mid-flow there. There we go. Everyone's
yeah. So we did the first taxi in his dad's garage, and we then made a video where we showed in one cut. Oh no, without a cut. We showed the car driving, opening the bonnet, showing the electrical gubbins, and then me getting in and then getting away with the car. So we thought that was the only thing you could. No, what kind of asset could we produce that someone who hadn't done a conversion couldn't do, right? So if you were to fake it, oh yeah, that's a newer one actually, but yeah, I'll take it. And we sent that to Innovate UK, and they gave us money to build some more. Now, the reason we were interested in fleet conversions is because the environmental impact of converting the same vehicle over and over again is higher than if you have the miles that people put on these cars are quite immense, and they're right in the city centers in the UK at least, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a let's say a pursuit of happiness conversion because you want to break a record, or you want to I don't know, you want to see if you can do it, or you want to see if you can do it in a new way or with a new component, or you want to, I don't know, you want to be the first one to EV convert a Unimog or some Lancia from the 60s or something. That's all fair and well, and I would encourage everybody to do that, especially as a learning experience. But from from an environmental impact, the impact of converting fleet vehicles, i.e. taxis or buses or delivery vehicles, or like last mile delivery or something, is much higher. So that's why we focused on that. Is the audio better now?
Paul is saying that you're still a little distorted. So
no, I do apologize. I can turn my volume down.
You can turn it down a touch. Paul, you give us some feedback. Janosch has spoken a bit more. Okay, so basically, in summary, what you're saying is you want to focus on the kind of more the fleet market to make more of a difference. So was that one of your main aims with Clipper, just actually, rather than going the personal fleet, to make more of an environmental and clean air difference to go after the fleet? Is that what you were after, or was there another reason?
Yeah, that was kind of the motivation behind that project. Yeah, that was the motivation behind that. Yeah, so we did that, and we did build 3 cabs in the end. Hang on, where we're here, 3. And the first one is a really stupid way to build it, and I think Paul will know it, and some other people who know me will know it. But if you're listening to this and you're thinking to do an EV conversion, and you think, okay, I'm mechanically inclined, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an existing EV and put it into another car. Don't do it. It's stupid. It doesn't want to do it. It's endless pain and suffering. You will get, like, we got to a rolling vehicle with it for that demo. But what you do is, and this is already a technical deep dive now, you take an existing system that refuses to work if you remove any component of it. So we imagine it at first to be like an onion, where you take the pieces off that you don't want. But in reality, I think it's more like an egg. Like you take the system, you smash it, and then you need to pick up the pieces and build something new. That's something that works much better than trying to move a whole system over. What you could do like a body swap. So I've seen someone swapped, I think, like talked about swapping like a charger onto a Tesla or something, like a fully mechanical swap. That's fine. What we did is we took the whole Nissan Leaf, put it on a bench, made it spin on a bench, and then put it in a taxi. And then you end up like replacing like the wiring harnesses, and turns out you can't unplug the steering column, which makes sense because then the system refuses to start. So you end up having to move the steering column from one car into another car that already had a steering column in that was fine, right? So you end up creating, on windshield wipers as well, you end up having to take the windshield wipers, which then are quite complicated devices, right? Because the curvature of the windshield for one car is like quite different to that of another car. So it's all really janky and all that, right? We did get an MOT for it and drove it around the block for fun. Right. But that was like the first video that we made that enabled us to raise the money to then do it properly the next 2 times.
Okay.
So I went quite deep now already. So I did this, we did this fleet conversion, and taxis is a very complicated market for various reasons, and we can go into the unit economics and that kind of stuff as well. I've since stopped doing that. We got, maybe the highlight reel from that is we raised like 300,000. We built 3 cars. We got them licensed, insured. DVLA changed. We passed some taxi inspections, and we got them to the stage where they could reliably rapid charge, and I drove I think 20,000 miles between the two like proper build cars. So we've been to Ireland, we've been to Scotland. I've been to York like 3 times. I've been to Wales. It was featured on. Say again?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it was featured on.
It was featured on. What's Moggy's channel called again?
Classic Cars, Vintage Voltage.
Yeah, exactly. It's featured Electric Classic Cars, and then we got Tom Scott from YouTube to drive it as well for one of his videos.
And what sort of efficiency were you getting out of it?
It was a 40 kilowatt hour pack, or it still is a 40 kilowatt hour pack, and you got like 100 miles on a good day, I think. But this is me driving them, which is that was like motorway driving, quite a lot of motorway driving. On a we can talk a bit about taxi specific stuff. A typical driver will do, I think it's 200 miles a day in London, or like 160, 200 or 160. And they do so much of that at crawl speed, right? And for that, the mileage. So I'm telling you 100 miles, which I achieved from the motorway. I don't know how much it would be if it really were to crawl around central London for a day. I reckon you get way more. It's the same as the Dynamo van, which is, if you're familiar with it, it's the ENV 200 from Nissan, which is a 40 kilowatt hour van. They have got exactly the same battery in it. They've got a 40 kilowatt hour battery in it. What Dynamo has done is they took an electric van and turned it into a taxi. What we did is we took a taxi and made it electric.
Right.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the first one was not the right way to do it.
No.
And you did two other versions. Were the second and third version the same, or one was one version, the third was like the improved of the second, or?
No, the second and third were pretty much identical.
We
were then using. Say again.
How did you approach that one differently from the first iteration?
Yeah, so we discovered open inverter, and we ended up using Johannes's board to control the Nissan Leaf. We optimized the layout. We got rid of, I guess, from a mechanical side, what was interesting is we got rid of the taxi gearbox altogether. We used a modified Leaf gearbox. We used the Leaf motor and inverter. We didn't use the Leaf charger. We had the battery split in the between under the bonnet. One half was under the bonnet, the other half was in the boot. And we moved. What did we do? We moved the spare wheel underneath. The motor was running in reverse continuously. So we've done 20,000 miles in reverse, which is quite funny, right? When you use like a front wheel car, a motor from a front wheel car in a rear wheel drive vehicle. The gearbox had to be modified, so it's got 3 cogs in it, 3 reductions, or like 2 reductions and a diff. And we deleted the diff because you still have the diff at the rear of the taxi. So you want to, for someone who's not mechanically inclined, I guess, including me, I didn't know how about this works. So you want to have vaguely an 8-to-1 reduction from the rotation of the motor to the wheels. And if you have more than that, you're running the motor. Either you're losing too much torque, so you can't start properly anymore, you can't accelerate. And then if you go too far the other way, you're going to have amazing wheel spins, but you're losing your top speed. So you want to have that vaguely in spec, right? I think sports cars have like a 10-to-1 reduction, and like normal everyday cars have like an 8-to-1 reduction. And for that, we had to commission like custom gears had to be made to turn the Leaf gearbox from an 8-to-1 into 4-to-1, and together with the 2-to-1 reduction, it's multiplied 4-to-2, this is 8, then end up with a drivetrain that makes sense and running the motor within spec. Also, if you run it over spec, it's going to get like too hot, or you're going to get problems for lubrication and whatnot, or the rotors might fly apart or something like that, right? I think Paul Compton might have some stories about that kind of stuff.
What's I take it the motor after that 4-to-1 reduction that was then put into a prop shaft to go into the rear diff?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a similar scenario to the TVR that Ralph is undertaking for myself. So it's a Tesla model, small drive unit, prop shaft into the rear diff. So yeah. Okay,
wait, so you're using a Tesla drive unit with a through a shaft? Couldn't you connect it directly to the axle?
It's a modified unit. But I'll stay away from the TVR subject, because I can talk to you about that later, because I want to focus on the but,
sure.
With regards to so that's what you did with Clipper, and what is it you're doing? What is it you're doing now? What are you focusing on now?
Yeah. So the I parted ways with my co-founder. Our relationship had run its course, and we kind of had different vision for how to go forward. So he's doing that kind of stuff now, and focusing on the fleet conversions, and I'm focusing on smaller cycle. So if you build a car and you're trying to sell it, you've got this endless long R&D loop, right? And at the end, you can sell it or not sell it, or do what it. I'm trying to do something with smaller loops now, and I thought, okay, what have I got now that would be really helpful to loads of other people? And what I'm doing is I'm offering. Oh, here we go. It's the prop. I'm offering my own knowledge on the telephone, so anybody can call me and ask me any question they want, and I will tell them anything about either their EV conversion or their charger or their EV startup, whatever it might be, and I'm spreading the knowledge there, and I've got some ideas for teaching or making it more accessible, making it more accessible either for people who want to do conversion themselves, or just for people who might have a curiosity about it and who might have just an interest. So for example, people who worked on combustion motors or something, and who would be interested in doing a conversion or learning more about, I don't know, how to debug a charger in an i3 or in their Tesla or whatnot, or how to do CAN debugging and stuff. So I'm trying to make that more accessible, and have got some services and products in the pipeline for this year that I'm working on.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. And where do we go to for that? Just for anybody listening who's interested in that type of thing, where's the best
of course. If I want to plug something, I should plug it properly, shouldn't I? So it's foxev.io. So it's foxev.io, and you can book me for a call for an hour. Like, there's online forums where you can ask people questions, but not everyone wants to do it, or someone might have an idea that is behind an NDA because they've got investors already, or they don't want to talk publicly about certain issues that they're having. They can call me in, and I will see if I can help them either understand what's going on or work out a particular problem as well.
Okay, and what was that? It was Fox EV was the.
That's right, foxev.io. Yeah.
Got it. I was just finding it so I could share on the screen. So there we go.
Nice.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, get the answers plan project, build project. So yeah, wonderful. I must admit that's something that I could have definitely done with prior to starting my project, because I've certainly been having some fun and games as people I'm sure will see.
Yeah, and same for me. Like, an hour with someone who's done the journey. Like, we didn't know. We just had the garage. We just bought the pieces and then did some Googling and all that. But we never really engaged or we engaged with some people. But I think just talking to someone like just for an hour or maybe 2 hours at the beginning of the project is going to save you like weeks and weeks of going down wrong rabbit holes, right?
Yeah. Learning from mistakes is certainly what I've been doing. Got plenty of those mistakes, and with Ralph under my belt, that's for sure. So
and I think there's some mistakes that what my stepdad used to say, like, there's some mistakes that you have to make yourself, and there's others where it's enough to watch other people make the mistake. There's a safety disclaimer, I guess, right? If you work with EVs, you're working with high voltage, and there's certain mistakes that you only make once, and then that's kind of the end, right? You don't want to make them. I'm not a qualified safety advisor or whatnot. I can talk to you about the software and all that, and maybe give you some stuff that some guidance for what I did and how I stayed alive. Your mileage might vary. But yeah, I think the more people you ask early on in your project, the better, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. And with regards, sorry, what are you going to say, sir?
Yeah, no. Do you want to? What else you wanted to talk about? Like fleet? Do you want to talk about fleet stuff? Do you want to talk about fleet economics, or?
That's what I'd like to focus on. Like I said prior to us going live, is I know that my channel is focused mainly on personal EV conversions, but ultimately I started Chargeheads because I was passionate about clean air and passionate about transport and exciting cars. However, like you mentioned right at the beginning there, is the fact that, there's all these last mile vehicles, all these, commercial vehicles that can potentially be converted, if not, changed for electric cars. But what have you got any opinions, any kind of thoughts on what vehicles would be easier to convert, more easy than others? Obviously, we've touched on taxis, and I know Clipper have done some work around, and I know you don't work for them anymore, but on the sort of bigger kind of vans. But what's your thoughts on that? What do you think are the low-hanging fruit in terms of electrifying fleets?
So the question. So you talked a lot about conversions now. The question is, let's assume most vehicles we want to have electric by, like, I don't know, 2030 or whatever the current goal is that they keep pushing out, right? And so we've got a modern country like the UK, right? And then you've got people buy all this stuff and it comes over from China, and then they consume stuff and they want to go on holiday and they want to eat and they want to go to school and they want to go to the hospital and do all these things. So you've got all this infrastructure around you, and then stuff needs to be moved around and people need to be moved around for all of that to be happened, and energy needs to be generated. And then the question is, how, if you want a net zero future, how is that going to look like, right? And as you said, low-hanging fruit. What is good? What is a good thing to replace, and what is something where you might see diminishing returns, right? So and there's two things, two dimensions you can go. That you can either go by. There's three dimensions, I guess. You can talk embedded carbon, like how complicated is it, and how much energy went into making a vehicle. The other one is, how often does this vehicle actually get used? And then the third one is, does it make economic sense, right?
Yeah.
So, and for taxis, they were very interesting because they just put so many miles on them right in the city center, right? And when we started to do this, the new hybrid taxi, where the public believes is electric, but it's not, it's a hybrid. They call it a range extender, but it's like a 1.5 liter petrol engine, right? So they weren't around. So everything was diesel. And you had, I think it's like 20,000 cabs at the time were registered in London. That was pre-COVID, and they were doing about 200 miles a day, and they were 3 liter diesels. So you don't have to be an expert. I mean, you just stand next to these things and you hear,
they're just idling most of the time, aren't they? They're not really,
and they're just exactly. So it's just like inner city transport. It's just horrible for diesel, right? And then the other question is, okay, so they were, that's why we picked them, right? Now, then you've got delivery vans as well, and then you've got stuff like lorries. You've got like, you want nice trees from Scotland or something, and then they drive to Birmingham to like a furniture factory, and then drive from then the furniture is driven to Kensington, where you then sell it to people for lots of money, and then the lorry returns. And I mean, it's simplified economics here, right? But that's something that also needs to happen, right? And then you've got stuff like a fire engine, which sits idle most of the time, but it needs to be super reliable, right? So you don't want to, if you switch, or like an ambulance, if you switch something over, you want to, for emergency vehicles, you want to make sure they work when you need them, right? You don't want to convert something and it doesn't start.
Ready to go. Well, Jamie's asked the question here. I'll go to the questions for a second, if you don't mind for a second, Janosch.
Yeah.
Says, are you still on a barge, and is it getting a conversion? Is this? Doesn't look like you're on a barge at the moment, Janosch, but you never know.
I'm at my girlfriend's house, and I do. So I've got a boat. I've got like a narrow boat, right, which is a diesel. But it's interesting because it sits around for the best part of 2 weeks and then gets moved for 3 hours in the weekend, and then it sits for the best part of 2 weeks again. So the question is that a good vehicle to convert? It would be interesting because you could charge it for 2 weeks and then do it, but also the cost benefit, like how much time do you want to spend on a conversion for like the emissions that you then change? So no, that's still diesel. And I haven't had the muse to convert that.
No,
let's go through some more vehicle types though, because there's some other groups. So emergency vehicles are super critical, right? Then the other one is commodities, I guess. If you've got a box standard van, it's 2024 now. All the big manufacturers are making vans, right? So you're going to really struggle to compete with them on price alone, because you've got Nissan, and if they develop a new vehicle, they're going to throw like, I don't know, it's like 2 billion or something, right, on R&D in it. And if you have a workshop and I don't know, £20,000 to spend, or maybe 30, do you really think that what you can come up with is going to be better, more reliable than what Nissan can do with, I don't know, like 100 engineers for 2 years, right? And I would like to say the answer is no. So if you were to convert a fleet, if it's so general purpose and commoditized that you're competing with vans, you're in trouble. Unless you replace the van, which is what all these last mile delivery startups are doing, right? You're replacing the van with a bicycle, all of these four-wheeled delivery vehicles, right?
Yeah.
Then you've also got agricultural machinery. Now that's fine. They sit around for most of the year, but you will then. I grew up next to a farm in Germany, or next to a bunch of farms. And then my classmates would skip school when the harvest needed to come in like August, right? So when the wheat fields needed to be taken in. So the first son drives in the morning, the second son drives in the afternoon, and the dad drives at night. So you've got this gruesome 24-hour duty cycle, and like how big is the battery going to be for that? And you can't put like the solar. You would have to put so many solar panels in it. So I wouldn't convert a tractor.
No.
I've been a negative Nancy now and talked about a bunch of vehicles that I would not convert. I wouldn't do general purpose vans. I wouldn't do agricultural vehicles. I wouldn't do ambulances. So you want to get away. You want to get away from. You don't want to compete. If you're an individual converter, you want to get away from general purpose vans, because you're not going to beat the big boys on price, right? There's just no, unless someone gives you millions, and you might have some sort of edge. That's fine. What might be interesting to look at is construction machinery, because they've got an interesting duty cycle. They're a bit bigger and more bespoke, or anything that's a bit more bespoke. There might be like mining equipment as well, but mining equipment needs to move loads and loads of earth. If you think like in Australia, like the big, when they dig the coal, I guess, or the copper out of the ground, and you've got these, what are they called actually, with those ginormous wheels that are like taller than me.
I know what you mean. They have started. I think they are trialing electric versions of those already, which is
yeah. And they're trialing. Well, they're trying like self-driving and all that kind of stuff, right? So there's like these ginormous pieces of infrastructure. I think they've got quite gruesome duty cycles. But I was thinking, just diggers that you have in cities would be quite an interesting case, because they've typically in the UK, I think with the labor regulations and all that, you've got a duty cycle of maybe like 12 hours or something, so you can plug them in overnight.
Yeah.
They do move earth around, and there's certainly a bunch of kilowatts that you need for that, but it's not that much, because you don't get into the when the wind resistance goes quadratic, because you go faster and faster, you never get into that course, right? And they're a bit more bespoke, so there's less players that you need to compete with. So you don't need to compete with general purpose manufacturers, and the margins look a bit better. Like a digger is just like, especially as soon as it's, or like these telephone post maintenance vehicles or something. I think that stuff is quite interesting.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, there's Hillhead. Hillhead is the big show for that type of machinery. And ironically, in my work with Vital EV, charging, DC charging, I'm talking to those, sort of companies, because that it does seem to be there. But is there that possibility of EV converting that type of vehicle then? Is that what you're
I think so. The regulation is a bit different. I looked into which brings us to regulations that we still want to talk about, the DVLA and all that.
In the chat, the guys were, I don't think there's any ladies in there as far as I'm aware. Be careful. And they've been talking about DVLA and VED class and, post 2001 cars. And I'm sure you've come across this before, Janosch. And just to give people a little bit of a summary of what this is all about.
So let's stay on the construction vehicles for a quick moment, because all of that seems to be. Say again.
Sorry, yeah, carry on. I was jumping ahead.
All of that seems to be irrelevant for construction vehicles, because they don't really drive on public roads, or if they drive on public roads, you've got a man like waving a yellow flag or something in front of it. So that doesn't seem to matter. You do have what is called stage 4, 5, and 6, and the stages are in Roman numerals. And those are zones that are putting harsher and harsher emissions limits on equipment. In London, for example, the Greater London Authority is expanding that. There's a certification process for that I haven't gone through yet, and that I haven't looked into that much. But there's certainly a push with construction vehicles as well. The problem with all EV conversions is if there's not a financial case for it, people are not going to do it, right? Individuals might do it, and people who love the planet and whatnot. But businesses have a responsibility to their shareholders to maximize profit. And if it's more profitable to run diesel generators than have a battery bank and some solar, then they're going to do that, right? And that's just how it is. So there need to be incentives, and if they are incentivized to do something else, then they will do it. But at the end of the day, if you don't give them the right incentives, then they're just going to make decisions that are bad for the planet.
Too true.
Now, that's just how it works. So now for the registration, we got IVAs for the vehicles. So we got the normal MOT. We got the V5 changed. Then we went for voluntary individual vehicle inspection, and got the engine changed to electric. And of course, we tried to change the tax class. The problem with the and then there's this weird legal. They started tying the tax that you pay on a vehicle in England to the cylinder capacity, didn't they? And they started doing that in 2001, is my understanding.
They switched to. Oh, didn't they switch to CO2 emissions?
Oh, was that so? So there was some. Okay, so that was the first. So the V5s from 2001 onwards are the first ones who have got these emissions, right?
Yeah.
On the V5, and before that it was. Oh, and it was the other way around. Before that was just cylinder capacity, and then they changed it to CO2 emissions.
That's it. Yeah.
Right. So. And for some reason, the DVLA in the UK, which is our licensing authorities, like I think the DVA in Ireland, TÜV in Germany, what is in America, DMV. The DVLA is the one for the UK, and they refused to change the tax class. So that was a problem with the taxis as well, because the taxis have a limited lifespan by the local authority. They're regulated to only run for 15 years. So all of them were post 2001. So even though we spent all this time and energy into switching them over, you could never change the V5. Interesting enough, they did by accident switch one of them to electric and said, yeah, this is zero tax exempt and all that, and will let us drive around. Oh no, for two actually. For the first two taxis, they said, okay, yeah, this is all fine. You're tax exempt. Everything's fine. You're green. Great, guys. And then at some point, there was a letter which just said, oh, no, this was a mistake. And now you owe us 2 years of back tax. And these are still diesel vehicles, despite the DVSA certifying that they've seen and that they're very happy with the conversion of these electric vehicles now. just a bit of kick up in the teeth, but that's how it goes. So if you are an enthusiast watching this and you want to convert your vehicle in the UK and you want the benefit of them being tax-free, just take a pre-2001 car would be my advice.
Yeah. No, that's the route I went. I mean, I actually went the route of going for something that was nearer to the classic age. So what is it, 40 years? 40 years, I think.
Yeah, it's quite long, isn't it? It's I thought it was 30. I think it's 35 or 40. Yeah. So that's well, you can go the other way where you then don't have to have an MOT anymore at all. You just have to keep it in a roadworthy condition, and then you can kind of do whatever you want. And the incentive behind that is, it's nice that you keep all things running and that you keep playing with them. Therefore, do what you want with it, which is also
Yeah, it's I think, I went that route because I thought, do you know what, that might be another way of another loophole. And I'm not trying to get through the loopholes, but obviously when you're spending a lot of money, a lot of time and effort into a conversion, you want to try and make it beneficial, not only just for the planet, but also to yourself, from a financial point of view.
Sure.
There's quite a lot in the comments there. Robert Stevens, thanks for all your comments there, by the way, talking about tax class changes and what we mentioned about 2001 as well. And CMC talking about CO2 emissions. They argued the point, it's the law that they can't change it. And Foxhound Follies there, I think you were talking about this in a WhatsApp group earlier, that 40-plus-year-old classics, you still need an MOT on a conversion as it's a major modified vehicle.
Okay.
So you still, it doesn't matter that it's over 40 years old because there's a major modification, you've got to do it. We've got Robert Stevens here. He said you might lose your classic status because exactly. That's what Foxhound Folly said above that. So
I thought about that.
It really makes sense. What the DVLA are doing. I have heard recently as well that it does seem that Greater London seem to be not necessarily going by the DVLA rules. They seem to be doing their own thing a lot of the time. So, but if we move away from the CO2 emissions and the tax, what's Jamie got to say? I've not massively bothered about the tax costs, but I want the fuel type changing for ULEZ type zones that are coming everywhere. I wonder why that is, Jamie. Is it because you've got a diesel that you're converting? I'm guessing so. Great conversion, by the way. Checking it. I'm watching the vlog, mate. Really good. And Foxhound Follies, you still keep the tax exemption, but you lose the MOT exemption. There we go. Yeah, for 40-plus-year-old cars. So yeah, there's all these things which I always said when I started Chargeheads and started the conversion, that it'd be nice to get a load of us together to try and push for better, fairer regulation that essentially is going to benefit cars that aren't polluting as much. But you literally hit the nail on the head, Janosch. It's about money, whether it's money generation from the government or, if people are doing EV conversions on fleet vehicles, it's got to make sense and it's got to be better. It can't just be electric. It's got to be better than the competition out there. And when you're looking at all these Chinese vehicles coming in with, Maxus, for example, they've got the best value vans out there, I would say. We won't talk about reliabilities and all the other things that go with it, but certainly they're the best value and they seem to be a big volume player at the moment. I think they came second out of most my cat's going mad. Most sold vehicles, sold vans. So yeah, interesting stuff. Going back to personal EV conversions, Janosch, is there obviously you've done the taxi, is there an EV conversion that you were thinking about doing yourself? It sounds like you're into your cars for sure. When you mentioned
of course.
LS swaps, I knew that the petrol head inside you was trying to get out. But are there any particular cars that you've seen as being an ideal conversion or something that's easier to convert? Because I know that there's a lot of people that probably are looking for those sort of cars with the space, cars that are gonna be less effort, less work to convert. Which give you
I think it's getting easier and easier, especially with some of the efforts in the open source community, right? And I, of course, have an eye on something that I would like to convert for myself. And okay, let's take a step back here, right? So we talked about money before. If you think you have a daily driver car and you're going to save money by converting it to electric, and that's your only motivation, then I would say don't do it. Or check how much it is for someone to convert it. You've got all these converters, who put like Felton kits, and like Felton, who, where are they? They're in Wales or near Bristol or something, right? They've got their factory there, and they put their ID3 packs in, and then they've got their own VCU, and then they've got their own BMS, I guess, or they interact with an existing BMS, and they make it all nice and shiny. And then they don't sell it to you; they sell it to resellers, and all these resellers then sell you like some popular vehicle types, right? So they do Porsche, they do kit for Porsche, they do kit for a Mini, I believe, and they do a kit for a Range Rover, and then they do custom jobs. And they're going to charge you 50 to 80 quid, 50 to 80,000 pounds for conversion, right?
Yeah.
Which I think is not that unrealistic, given what kind of liability they're taking on, and how much labor goes into an individual conversion, right? So you're going to spend, if you're doing an individual conversion, you're going to spend an awful lot of time with this car. So get something that you really, really like, right? If you're doing it for the pursuit of happiness, because you're a petrolhead anyway, and you want to learn about new technology, this is for you, right? You're gonna really figure out how this stuff works. You need mechanical knowledge, you need electronics knowledge, you need power electronics knowledge, you need some safety considerations, and some programming, right? There's a whole lot of stuff that will be touched. So as a personal growth journey, converting a car like that, and previously even an engine swap before, even from one petrol to another, I think would have been a learning experience for anyone already as well, right? You said you were a petrolhead for like many years, and I suspect you didn't start on electrons, right? So if you go at it with an open mind and as an enthusiast, and you see this as a pursuit of happiness thing, then I think an individual conversion makes absolute sense. And then you have to think about how much time am I willing to put into this, and what am I going to do with it? I guess when I'm done with it, it's a bit like buying a boat is a hobby. If you really want to be out at sea and you want to sail, and that's the thing that makes you happy, then of course do it, right? But don't buy a boat because you think you're going to save money, right? They're like, what did it say? A boat is a hole in the water that you throw money in, right? And I think a passionate EV conversion is I would see in a similar way. Sure, you're going to save money on petrol, but you also, yeah, I mean, all the time. If all your time you spent working on that, you would have billed, and you've got like some sort of decent hourly rate, right? You're never going to make that money back, right? You have to think of it as an education.
If my conversion was about saving money, I don't think I would be here anymore. It is very much a passion project. And I'll come onto your comment in a second, CMC, just to touch upon this, because I think I forget, because my conversion's been going on so a long time, which I don't have as much control over as many people will know, because Ralph Hosier, RHEL Engineering is doing it, and yeah, for me it was all about trying to build something that's as exciting as my 5-litre V8 TVR. And a couple of things that we were doing, which I don't think many other people were doing, I thought I'd highlight it actually, because most electric cars are known for being quiet. They're known for being smoother. But with the TVR conversion that we're doing, all these petrol heads, me myself, I'd probably argue this is, if I hadn't have kind of got into electric cars, I would have probably said this as well, is, that vibration, that where it feels like it's got a soul, where it's alive. And this is what we're trying to recreate with the Wedge, is the fact that, we're not having any sound deadening. There's going to be a lot less, there's going to be more vibrations from the motor. So, and there's going to be sound, from various elements, mechanical noises, not fake sound. So to try and have that drama, so that's what my project was about, to try and not only have something that's zero emission, because my 5-litre V8 was horrific. I couldn't even stand in the garage for more than 2 seconds with it on. It was ridiculous.
even behind it, it was ridiculous. So having something that is, you know, something a bit unique, but giving you that same thrill and excitement with zero tailpipe emissions. I've seen people get really, dare I say, anal about people saying, "Oh, it's not zero emissions. The battery is this, that, the other." Bearing in mind, you know, the project is, you know, use batteries, use motor, and this, that, the other. But going back to the CMC, the question here, it said, and I think the bug plug might be able to owner might be able to answer this one, but it says slight change of subject. Janosch, what's the cheapest conversion price you can envisage?
Yeah. Okay. Maybe before we get into the numbers, just to reiterate, I think driving EV is fantastic, and I think it's the future firmly. Zero emissions is amazing, right? You feel you're gonna do something for the planet. The car is gonna be smoother, right? They're nippy as nothing else. I've driven a Tesla recently on a holiday, and it is so much fun to do this, right? They get off the line. You've got the full torque from the beginning, and as I said earlier about the learning experience, I mean, that was for me a key driver for me, and I think I certainly know a few others who the learning is just incredible, right? You learn so much more about the physics and the fabric, about how these complicated machines are really put together. And in some ways, the electric car is so much more complex than a petrol car, and in some other ways, it's so much easier, right? Like the software is like incredibly complex. Like my boat has got like a diesel. There's no software on it, right? There's like two circuits. There's one for the starter motor, and that's kind of, and then the alternator, and that's kind of it, right? Whereas you've got super complicated mathematics in the running in the inverter for any electric car to get to the efficiency and stuff, right? And just to get a feel for how that's put together. I think the learning and all the learnings you're going to pick up on the way are just going to be invaluable and push you forward as a person or as an engineer, right? So I'm deeply passionate about it. I'm just saying, if you think, oh, I'm going to spend $3,000, then my car's electric and I save on my commute every day, might be good initial motivation, but you need to be realistic about what you're actually doing. Which then brings us to this question here: what's the cheapest conversion price you can envisage? Depends if you count your labor. If you just count parts, if you count your labor and how big the batteries are going to be, I think the battery price the bottom is going to fall out of that over time. So you end up with what do you need? You need a motor, inverter, charger. And then you need a custom motor spline adapter to couple the electric motor with the previously petrol or diesel chassis. So a good fabricator will do that. Let's budget like $2,000 for that, maybe less. The motor and inverter and the charger all together, if you get an amazing deal on eBay, budget another $1,500 or something. We're talking rock bottom here now, right? And then let's say £400, £500 for cables, and then the rest for batteries. And then you need to make a battery box as well. Let's say the batteries. Are you keeping count? I'm not keeping count. So I said $2,000 for the spline adapter, $2,000 for the motor and all that. So that brings us to $4,000. And then another 500 for cables and nuts and bolts and all the tools that you need. I also assume you've got a garage space, so you get to like $5,000 or $6,000 or something, and then you don't have batteries and a battery box. A battery box, I don't know, depends if you've got a good fabricator or not. So it's going to set you back maybe £600, maybe $1,000, something like that. And then batteries, don't know, $5,000 maybe. So I wouldn't like
batteries 11. Have come down. I mean, I bought my 44 kilowatt hour pack MGZS. It was 2020 MGZS with like 8,000 miles on, which I only found out recently because I asked the question, and that was £4,500. That was 2 years ago. You can get really, I mean, sort of 50 kilowatt hour batteries for, I would say, I reckon you get them for about $3,500 now. I mean, they really, really come down. Maybe another episode if I can get Jamie on, because I have heard Jamie, who's just put or recently put, you'll almost scrap it on multiple occasions.
Yeah.
I hear that he did his Beetle conversion for about £3,500, although I don't know what he's got by way of battery boxes and that sort of thing. But
I mean, what Jamie and some others are doing in terms of like the rock bottom price is they pushed it in a different way than we did. Also, keep in mind with the numbers that I just gave you, there's no labor, there's no labor, there's no rent for workshop, there's no room for error. There's no room for error. If you pop an inverter, if you pop a Tesla inverter, you're immediately $2,000 down, right? So then and you haven't done any programming, you haven't got a VCU, so you're probably going to need like a zombie inverter as a VCU if I were to build a new project now. Oh, here's another thing. If this is all new for you and you find like you feel like you're at the bottom of a canyon and you're looking up to people and you're like, wow, they're doing all this amazing stuff up there, right? And you want to get out of this canyon, like you're a normal person, you've got a normal car, and you want to do something like that, right? Don't try to revolutionize everything at the same time. Don't try to be better in every dimension than anybody else, because you're gonna get tangled up, and you're just gonna end up reading and going down into rabbit holes of reading or doing, and never end up with a finished car. You want to set yourself intermediate goals and find a beaten path that other people have traversed to make sure you don't end up with something that is a no-go. So you don't necessarily want to combine a motor and inverter that haven't been combined together, for example. You don't want to reinvent the wheel where it does need to be reinvented. Like try to find something that many other people have done. Like Leaf motors tend to go well into other cars. Tesla motors tend to go well into other cars, right? Yeah. If you've got I don't know, I'm sure people have converted like a Zoe or something, but try to pick components, and ideally combinations of components that other people have already done, and seek out other people who've done this, which is part of where these communities, i.e., you said you've got like a WhatsApp group, and then there's like the Open Inverter Forum, and there's I think Damien has got a Discord. Seek out communities and seek out combinations of parts that other people have already made work together, and see what they have done and try to replicate that success. And your build will still always be your build, because this will be different in some way where you make a slightly different decision. But don't try to set out and reinvent the approach for everything from scratch if you don't know what you're doing yet, because you just got to face plant, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I can 100% agree with that, because what I did with, again, the TVR build with Ralph is I brought a load of components together, which I don't think have ever been brought together.
Yeah.
So, it was a Ryan BMS2, the Tesla small drive unit. It was EV controls. It was a charger that no one had put all these things together. So yeah, that's certainly been a bit of a learning
and start with the also asterisk, if you're like a electronics and power electronics expert, then none of this applies. Do what you want, right? But if you're not, then the other thing is make all the complexity is going to be in the software and in the electronics. Like, I don't want to dismiss. I've seen like beautifully machined gears and mechanical pieces and fabrications and all that. That's all great. But in a project like this, if you want to convert your private car, like say you've got a Jaguar or like a Porsche or whatnot, and you want, or like a Land Rover, Land Cruiser or something, if you want to convert something like that, sure, have fun. But yeah, pick a combination that's already there, and keep in mind all the complexity will be in the electronics. So de-risk the electronics as far as you can. The mechanical stuff, you can always go to like a traditional automotive technician, and they will be able to help you. If you need to make I made like engine mounts myself, and they held up for a good few hundred miles, and that was from box section, right? A box section and some big bolts, and with a hand drill. Like that was kind of it. Like that was the very first iteration of the motor mounts that we had. That's all fine. All the complexity will be in the software and in the electronics. So if you're not a programmer, see if you can find a solution where you minimize the programming effort. Don't underestimate that, because that's where all the complexity is in the car, in a modern EV.
That's really good advice. I'll definitely agree with that one. Yeah. So yeah, find those components that work already. Save yourself.
Yeah.
Save that
Yeah.
time, and yeah,
especially if you're optimizing for money. If money is no object and you want to do like a shining beacon and you want to be the first one to do it, and you can program, or you've got £100,000 to burn on a custom conversion, don't worry about it. You know, then you pick the record that you want to break, whatever it is. If you want to make the lightest EV conversion solar car, God knows what, or if you want to make the fastest Range Rover, wherever you would want to do that, maybe like the torquiest Range Rover ever or something like that. Don't worry, do that then. But if you're counting beans and you just want to get something out the road, set yourself intermediate goals. What we did was, okay, you can break the project down further as well into stages, right? Let's say you've bought all these components now. Don't worry about charging before you had the motor spinning. Like if your batteries are charged already and you can't discharge them because you can't spin the motor, don't even worry about charging, right? Worry about, maybe have some ideas of where it's going to go and figure out, you know, a vague high voltage map. But the first thing to do is make the motor spin and make the motor spin controlled, right? If you can do that, that's fine. Now you need to worry about charging. Now at this stage, don't even worry about licensing yet. Read the licensing guidance. Don't cut into the chassis or anything like that. As a vague idea, my understanding is you want 30 centimeters from the front of the vehicle and from the rear of the vehicle to high voltage components, right? Don't like get some rough guidance for it. Don't worry about an MOT before you have the motor spinning. Spin the motor, right? Then you're good. Then see if you can spin the motor in the car. Once you've done that, see if you can charge the batteries. Get a BMS. Make sure you know what battery balancing is. Make sure you know what a pre-charge circuit is, right? So you don't pop your inverter. That predates the motor spinning. Now you're at a stage where you going to get an MOT. If you're abroad, I'm not sure if everybody is from the UK or who's listening here, but MOT is like the annual certificate, right? There's a sheet for that. Print the sheet out, put it in your workshop, and just take all the boxes off that the tester would pick up, right? Get insurance, drive to the MOT place. Then they're going to fail you. Figure out why they fail you. Fix that. Go back, and then you're in a pretty good place. And only then do you want to think about rapid charging. You can think a little bit about rapid charging first. With cooling, you're going to have some ideas about it. But if you spend ages, so you can build it. And I think Paul Compton is kind of be a bit scared about this, but you can build it iterative to some degree. You need to be sure you're always safe, but you can build it iteratively to some degree. If you try to do everything by themselves, you're going to end up like one of those people who's got a never finished conversion for 10 years in their garage, and you're never going to drive it, which would be a shame. You're still going to do the learning, and if it's all about the learning, then also who am I? Like I'm a voice on the internet, like do what you want. But my understanding, it worked. That's what worked for us, right? You, set yourself a plan, set yourself useful intermediate goals, and figure out what is the minimum critical path that you need to traverse to get to reach the intermediate goals to then end up with something cool.
Going back to when we were talking about matching things together, I was talking to, I think it's a YouTube channel, I forget his name, it's S2K's converting a Honda S2000, and he said in Germany they want you to put the motor and the inverter together. They have to be the same brand, they have to work together, which I think is quite an interesting one. But they're not so worried like they are in this country about playing around with the chassis essentially. I'm really interested to find out. You gave us a little nugget there, Janosch, of what car you were thinking about converting.
Did I reveal what it was?
No, you didn't. No, I don't think you did.
No, I don't think I did. No.
Go on. What were you thinking?
If I were to do one for myself, I would do something. I would do something prestigious with a good power to weight ratio.
Okay.
So you said S2000, something in that category. I would probably I keep myself looking at 911s. I would chop a 911 up and annoy all the people who say like, oh, that's what's called sacrilege. Yeah, right. Sacrilege is the word for it, right? That's a sacrilege. Don't do that. Well, I will do it. Well, we will see. We will see what I do. But I think something like a car that's fun. One thing that always annoyed me about the cabs was we spent all this time with them, and they were absolute dogs. Oh no, they were nippy. They were nippy in a straight line, but yeah, they're not meant to be driven fast, right? They're great. They're great for parking. They you park them like a trolley. It's like reversing. Was like a Fiat Panda or something, like where you've got like really good visibility in any direction. All that, they're great for that, and the turning circle is amazing in inner city driving. But if I were to do a pleasure project for myself, I would just go for something that's obscenely fast. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in the video I sent out on Wednesday, I had one of friends, Andy. He's recently bought this very high mileage Tesla Model 3, 220,000 miles. We talk about it on the episode, and he's got a 911 kit car which has got a Tesla motor in the back. So that might be quite a good. I think it's the original Zero EV one that was in Macau doing drifting around the circuit with flames on the back. Funnily enough, there's video of that on a video I did a couple of years ago when I first went to see Zero EV, what used to be Felton, with Chris.
Yeah, I mean Chris has done well, and in a sense, when I talked about all of this from the putting it together yourself point of view, and you choosing components that work together. What he's doing, he's kitified it, right? Or Zero or Felton have kitified it, right? So with a network of resellers, and taking you one step further, replacing like learning with money, which it's also fine for some people. If you still have an amazing car, right, and you're still doing something really cool, you've got something really unique. There's nothing, there's nothing wrong with that. Like everybody can do what they want. I guess if I were to do it over again, so I developed my own VCU because Zombie Inverter didn't exist yet. Open Inverter was a thing, and the Nissan Leaf Open Inverter was very well established at the time. Like I saw on the forum, loads of people are doing it. If I were to do it now, I would combine Open Inverter with the Zombie Inverter because that looks like the combination of VCU and inverter control that seems to be like it looks like it's going to be the beaten path. Or if you just want to be happy, get a Felton kit, get a Felton 911 and be happy with that. Or if you just want to have fun with an electric car, just buy a Tesla. Right.
Yeah, that is, I mean, you can get a long range now for about a decent mileage one, under 100,000 for 19,000 pounds now, which is a bit sore for me when I bought mine 2 years ago, but is what it is. Just go into a bit more detail what you're saying about the VCU and the open inverter. Can you give us a bit more detail? Because I know that I'm aware that a lot of people that are live with us now are very well, as far as I'm concerned, certainly compared to me, very well weathered.
Sure.
In the EV community in terms of being able to do their own conversions, very experienced, weathered. What am I talking about? I feel weathered today, I tell you. It'd be nice to know, just to explain how it all works with the VCU and the open inverter with what you explained just then, just so people can understand.
The easiest thing you can do is you find something that is meant to be used in a car, and that has an easy set of instructions, right? So that just says press here, connect high voltage power plus here, connect high voltage negative here, press here to make it go, and press here to make it go in reverse, right?
That sounds right up my street.
Yeah, and some of that exists, and some of that doesn't exist, right? And you need to make sure. Then you need to do like some rough like horsepower or like kilowatt calculations to make sure it works for your car. But that's kind of it. Like, and if you don't find that, then what you do is you find ideally an automotive component from another car that has been very well established and that can work in your conversion, and ideally one that you don't need to take apart. So I'm going from easiest to I'm going to go to harder and harder, right?
Yeah.
Easiest is you find some sort of kit component that is meant for automotive, and you use it exactly the way it needs to be used, right? Next one is you find an automotive component that you can use that is reworked by someone else that you can use in your conversion, i.e. you find a drivetrain where someone has worked out the CAN messages that you need to send to it to make it spin one way or another. So you don't even want to open the device, right? That's fine. For example, you could do this now with the Zombieverter, and if you want to put a Nissan Leaf into another front-wheel drive car, that's going to be fine. That's all you need to do. Don't even open the inverter. Don't give Johannes any money. Don't just buy the Zombieverter VCU, connect the CAN. That's all you need to do, right?
Just to really kind of simplify even more. So you take the Leaf motor and the inverter.
Yeah.
And to spin the motor, you just plug the CAN bus connection from the motor and inverter into the Zombieverter.
Yeah, I think that's my understanding of where this is going. This is definitely what I would try for the next conversion. Now, then there might be edge cases where that does not work, and this would have, for example, not worked for the taxis. A, because the Zombieverter didn't exist yet, and B, because we needed to spin it in reverse. And the Nissan Leaf inverter refuses to go faster than, we never tried it, but refuses to go faster than 40 miles in reverse. And you want to go faster than 40 miles if you want to go in the motorway, right? So at this point, you need to open the inverter and put another control board in, which is then the open inverter control board.
Yep. Okay.
And now it's getting quite complicated now. But I finished it and I'm alive and I did it, so it can't be that complicated either. Now, and then the next harder thing would be, okay, you find a motor that no one has ever worked out, and then you have to work it out and you have to hack it. And you can still use open inverter. And then after that, here be dragons. You kind of, you build your own motor or something like that, right? That's like from easiest to hardest. And this is quite early in your project, right? You still, you have a motor spinning. What you need, if you use existing automotive components is good. For electromagnetic shielding, you can trust that the aluminum case or whatever has been tested by Toyota or Nissan or BMW or something, and you can trust that they went through all the certifications and they'd have done a good job. Here's one other thing. Shielding is a bit of a pain to try to do to at the end of the project. So when I said earlier, make the motor spin, buy the cables with the right shielding up front, because that's going to bite you later on otherwise. And then you kind of, and there's this whole other world of pain that you have with BMSs and battery balancing and temperature management and rapid charging. Shadow mode is easier, then CCS. Now it looks like CCS is getting easier. That's all fine, but don't think too much about rapid charging, about DC charging if you haven't got a motor spinning yet, unless you're selling or building DC chargers or something, then obviously think about those. But if you're talking about an enthusiast passion project that you do to make yourself happy, there's a very clear path of intermediate goals that you can set yourself that will eventually lead you to success.
No, that's really helpful. Really, really helpful. Janosch, I suppose because we've gone over the hour, but just as a bit of a summary, if I would love you again to plug what you can do for budding EV converters, people who are thinking about converting a vehicle, just to steer people in the right way. So please, can you just plug what you can do to help people? Because like I said before, if I'd had that heads up and had that half an hour, couple of hour chat with yourself, I'm sure I would be in a very different position now. So far away.
I think it would be. It's a sound ending, right? And then ends on a plug as well, right?
Absolutely. I'm not saying that I'm not. I'm very happy with where I am with the TVR. But would it have been quicker? Would I have used different components? More than likely, I am where I am, and I'm happy where I am. Just to confirm that. But Janosch, yes, please say how you can help people.
Right. You can pick up the phone and have a conversation with me for an hour. And I will answer any question that you have. If you listen to us in the last hour, then I've already how I speak and how I think about this, and you've got an idea about my background. Like, I'm based in the UK. I can give you I can't give you legal advice, but I can give you hints for how to do the licensing in the UK, and I can tell you based off my experience, I've converted 3 cars. I've done the electronics. I'm a firmware programmer. I've designed my own circuit boards. I've successfully rapid charged. I've successfully driven, 20,000 miles in these. I will answer any question that you have. I will take the time, and you can approach me with any kind of project that you have. It can be an individual conversion. It can be if you want to convert a fleet. I'm happy to talk about that. If you want to talk about rapid chargers and how they're being put together, we can talk about that. If you've got like an EV service questions, I worked for many startups which are marketplaces where people booked stuff online and have like maybe you have a business idea for like a software hardware combination or something. I'm happy to discuss absolutely anything and everything. It is not a free service, right? You're going to pay for it, but hopefully you can see the value you can get out of it. You're going to have a conversation with someone who has made terrible mistakes. I've blown up multimeters. I destroyed an expensive battery pack. I destroyed expensive BMSs. I built some circuit boards to test BMSs to test wiring before you plug the BMS in, to avoid that for other people. I can help you with your conversion. I can give you guidance wherever you need it. And if you want me to, or if you don't feel confident posting something in an open forum, you would rather have a private conversation, then I'm there for you. And you can do that by going to foxev.io or send me an email at hello@foxev. Foxev.io, that's me. My name is Janosch, and I've been converting electric cars since 2018.
Super. And do you get to the point where you would actually go and visit people at all?
Within reason, yeah, why not?
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, Janosch, thank you so much for giving your time to this live chat, and hopefully you found it interesting, and hopefully you can get some good feedback from people and get a few leads on your new enterprise. And just to say thank you so much to everyone who commented. It looked like there was quite a few comments going, which is great. Do you know what? I'll probably keep the comments going for a little bit longer. But I just want to say thank you for everyone taking part. It's great to see so many keen EV conversion enthusiasts just getting involved, because at the end of the day, that's all I wanted for Chargeheads, is just to bring more people together and just to help this scene and just to try and make it easier. And I think what I've really taken from this video, Janosch, is your advice of the fact that using components that work already, make it to make it easier for yourself. Do what other people have done. Use people's experience, whether it's open inverter forum, whether it's contacting yourself directly. There are all these resources now, which are fantastic. So thank you again, Janosch. Thank you for everyone who's commenting. And next week we've got Ewan McTurk, and that's for Thursday, 8 p.m. So we're talking batteries, probably talking about battery fires. We're probably talking about LFP, NMC, sodium. And having spoken to Ewan before, he's a great guy, great character. And I'm really looking forward to that chat as well. So tune in Thursday, 8 o'clock next week. Thanks all. See you next time.
Nice one. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, guys. Cheers, Janosch.